Comfrey. There is a plant growing along your fence line right now, probably within 20 feet of where you are standing, that carries a compound most commercial fertilizer companies have never once mentioned to you. A compound that does not just feed your plants, it signals them, primes them at the cellular level to push back against drought, heat, and disease all at once. Appalachian homesteaders knew this. British allotment gardeners knew it too. A researcher named Lawrence Hills spent 30 years proving it before the synthetic nitrogen industry absorbed the market and buried his findings in a book almost nobody outside the organic farming world has ever opened. Before the mechanism, I need to tell you about one specific detail inside that book. One cultivar, one name. It changes everything about growing food for free. That detail arrives later. Stay with me. Here is what this costs you right now. According to Angie's 2026 pricing data, the average homeowner spends between $77 and $395 per fertilizer application, and multiple rounds across a growing season push most families past $200 before summer ends. Potash prices climbed 21% between 2024 and 2025. And global supply pressure on nitrogen compounds is pushing costs further into 2026. You are not buying fertilizer. You are financing a system engineered deliberately around your dependence on it. The Appalachian homesteading tradition solved this permanently alongside generations of British cottage gardeners and smallholders using Comfrey, a perennial organic liquid fertilizer source and one of the most effective compost tea bases a home garden can produce. A perennial plant that regrows itself every year from its root. You cut it, steep it in water, and apply the liquid to your beds. After the first season, the cost drops to zero. Here is where the story gets uncomfortable. In the early 1900s, 91% of American farmers fertilized using organic methods, including plant-based liquid feeds. By the 1950s, that number had collapsed to 3%. The USDA Forest Service documented this shift in its Rocky Mountain Research Station proceedings, drawing on Jones's 1982 research. What drove the collapse was not evidence that synthetic nitrogen outperformed organic methods over the long term. What drove it was the post-World War II conversion of munitions factories into fertilizer production. The same plants that produced nitrogen for explosives repackaged the same compound as crop nutrition, cheap, scalable, and dependency-forming. The Union of Concerned Scientists documented what followed. Decades of synthetic fertilizer use. Stripped soil of its natural fertility so thoroughly that farmers required heavier applications every year just to hold their yields level. The industry sold the problem alongside the solution, and it worked. Now, if you are thinking this only applies to someone running a full homestead, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. A 5-gallon bucket runs $5 to $8 at any hardware store, as of 2025. A brick or a heavy rock costs nothing. Cut a large armful of comfrey leaves, chop them roughly, load the bucket, and weigh the leaves down with the brick before covering everything with water. 4 to 6 weeks later, strain the liquid and dilute it at 1 part Comfrey tea to 10 parts water before applying it to your beds. The darker the liquid, the stronger the concentration, so err toward more water rather than less. The whole process takes 10 minutes of actual work. A mature comfrey plant can be cut 4 to 5 times across a growing season, producing repeated batches without replanting, without buying anything again. The cut material you do not steep can go directly onto your beds as chop-and-drop mulch, breaking down in place and feeding the same root zone from the surface down. Now let me tell you about the Allantoin piece, because this is where the chemistry actually matters. Maria Velaconja, a master gardener and owner of Carniola Farms in Parsonsburg, Maryland, uses Comfrey as her primary fertility source across her permaculture planting. Her explanation is plain. The roots drive 10 feet or more into subsoil through what permaculture practitioners call a deep taproot system, pulling up minerals and nutrients that no standard garden plant can reach. And what accumulates in those leaves transfers directly into your root zone when the liquid breaks down. The nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in Comfrey liquid arrive in a form plants can use immediately. North Carolina State Extension data puts Comfrey's potassium content at 2 to 3 times that of animal manure. Potassium is what drives flower and fruit production, which is the yield number most gardeners actually care about. But the compound almost nobody has heard of is Allantoin. Here's the detail I held back. Allantoin is a nitrogen-based compound concentrated in comfrey tissue, and NIH-indexed research published in 2023 confirmed that it functions as a signaling molecule inside plant biology. It activates stress-responsive genes through the jasmonic acid signaling pathway and triggers antioxidant enzymes that clear reactive oxygen species from plant cells. And it compensates for soil nitrogen deficiency by maintaining nitrogen balance at the cellular level. You are not just feeding your garden when you apply Comfrey tea. You are switching on a biological response that makes plants more resistant to heat, drought, and disease in the same application. No synthetic fertilizer on the shelf at your farm supply store delivers this. Not one. The document that first mapped this at scale is called Comfrey, Past, Present, and Future, published by Faber and Faber in 1976, written by Lawrence Hills, founder of the Henry Doubleday Research Association, now operating as Garden Organic at Bocking in Essex, England. Hills ran controlled trials across 21 Comfrey strains over decades, recording yield measurements and NPK analysis across multiple growing seasons, specific enough to replicate. Obscure enough that most gardeners will never find it unless someone points them directly at it. I want to be honest about something. Biochemist and master gardener Robert Pavlis has noted that Comfrey's raw NPK values, measured dry weight, do not dramatically exceed those of other fertility plants such as alfalfa or clover. That observation is accurate and worth taking seriously. What it misses is the mechanism. The advantage of Comfrey tea sits in 2 places: the immediate bioavailability of its nutrients in liquid form, and the Allantoin-driven priming effect that no other common garden plant replicates. Alfalfa does not carry Allantoin at these concentrations. Clover does not either. The NPK comparison holds up and still misses the point entirely. One more thing worth stating plainly. Comfrey in the Boraginaceae family contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids, which is why the guidance across horticultural literature is consistent. Use it as an external soil and plant treatment, not internally. As a garden fertility system applied to soil and foliage, it has a centuries-long safety record. That distinction matters, and any serious source will tell you the same. Here is something else most people outside the tradition do not know. Hills's 30 years of trials identified one specific cultivar as the most nutrient-dense and the safest for a home garden. He named it Bocking 14, botanically a selected clone of Symphytum X uplandicum, the Russian Comfrey hybrid. Sterile, non-seeding, and stable, it holds its position in the garden rather than spreading across every available surface. Every other common Comfrey variety self-seeds aggressively, and within 2 seasons it becomes its own problem. Most online nurseries sell generic Comfrey root cuttings without specifying the cultivar at all. Before you buy, ask directly for Bocking 14. That single question separates a permanent fertility system from an invasive nuisance. This knowledge existed long before the Roman Empire. Pliny the Elder documented Comfrey's properties in 79 AD. Anglo-Saxon herbalists recorded it between 900 and 1000 AD. Hildegard of Bingen referenced it in 1179, and John Gerard included it in 1597. The knowledge threaded intact through 15 centuries of Appalachian herb gardens and British cottage plots until post-war industrial chemistry made forgetting it more profitable than preserving it. Profitable for them, not for you. If this technique saves you $200 across one growing season, picture what your full property looks like when the same principle extends to your fruit trees, your raised beds, your perennial borders, your compost system. That is the direction this channel builds toward, one recovered method at a time. Subscribe so you are there when each piece arrives. Next video, I am going to show you a water collection method Appalachian homesteaders use to keep gardens producing through a full summer drought. There is one structural detail inside that system I have only found referenced in a single period farming manual from the 1880s, and most modern guides leave it out completely. That omission is why most attempts fail. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Drop your growing zone and what you are currently spending on fertilizer each season in the comments below. I read every one, and this audience carries practical knowledge the internet has not cataloged yet. Put it there.